Most lash adhesives don't fail because artists lack skill. They fail because the standards behind them were never built for the artist in the first place. And once you understand that, it changes how you look at retention, consistency, and what you're willing to accept, not just in products, but in your business as a whole. In this industry, we're taught to troubleshoot everything around the glue: humidity, temperature, speed, technique. And while those things matter, we're rarely taught to question what actually goes into the bottle: how it's made, how it's tested, how consistently it's produced, and whether it was ever designed to support the artist long term. Today, I want to talk about why so many lash adhesives fail artists, why standards matter more than hype, and why I've refused to lower mine throughout my entire lash career. Passion and vision are part of this story, but they are not the headline. The headline is standards. Adhesives aren't neutral tools. We tend to treat glue like it's just glue. If it works, great. If it doesn't, we assume we did something wrong. But lash adhesives aren't neutral tools. The way they behave is the result of decisions made long before they ever reach your lash room. Decisions about formulation, decisions about how fast it needed to be launched, decisions about cost, speed, scale, and quality control. So when an adhesive works beautifully one week and fails the next, that's not random. That's upstream decision-making showing up in your work. If a product only works when conditions are perfect, the product isn't professional. It's fragile. And artists are left absorbing the frustration. Why K-beauty standards are different? This is where K-beauty philosophy matters. K-beauty isn't built around hype cycles or rushing products to market. It's built around formulation integrity, consistency, and trust. The question isn't, how fast can this launch? The question is, how reliably can this perform? Quality control isn't optional in that philosophy, it's foundational. And when standards are high at the manufacturing level, artists feel it behind the lash chair, not because the product is flashy, but because it's predictable. I want to use an example that isn't about lashes for a moment. Let's talk about sunscreen. In places like Korea, sunscreen is treated as a long-term health product. Formulations are updated regularly. Innovation is constant. Texture, wearability, skin sensitivity, and daily use are prioritized. In Canada, many sunscreen filters haven't meaningfully evolved in decades. The result? People think sunscreen is greasy, irritating, and uncomfortable, so they avoid wearing it. But the problem isn't sunscreen itself, it's the standards behind it. When regulations lag and innovation stalls, consumers are left blaming the product experience without realizing the system behind it hasn't kept up. Lash adhesives work the same way. When standards evolve, performance evolves. When they don't, artists are left adapting to outdated systems. And that's not a skill issue. That's a standards issue. You may have a skill issue, but that's an episode for another day. That's the reason why I use Korean sunscreens as an example. I just love Korean sunscreens. They're so cosmetically elegant. And I just love the fact how K-beauty prioritizes innovation. Of course, everything is still safe. They do prioritize safety, but they allow so much more room for innovation. And that's the approach that I really, really love. So now let's talk about environmental awareness. There are no two lash rooms that are identical. And yet many adhesives are created as if they are. When formulations don't account for real working environments, temperature shifts, humidity fluctuations, seasonal changes, lash artists end up fighting the glue instead of working with it. A professional product should adapt to the artist and not punish them for being human. When formulations are designed with environmental awareness, your confidence will return. Consistency improves, and artists stop questioning their own ability. This really affected me in the beginning when I was a baby lash artist. I started out accepting all kinds of appointments. I would be doing mobile lash appointments, when I went to different people's homes, I noticed that the glues that I was working with would perform differently. I have discussed in a previous episode that I wasn't really taught about humidity, temperature, the environment, the science of the glues. I had no idea why I would go to one appointment and the glue would work properly. I go to another person's house to another appointment and it would behave totally different. And it was super frustrating because the client doesn't understand. They're just lying down waiting to get their lashes done. This really informed my experience on, there's something about the glues that makes it work differently in different environments. I really need to pay attention to this. In the beginning, I was using so many different brands of lash glues. Like I mentioned before, I tried every single company's glue, hoping that the next one would be my holy grail. The reason why I did this is because Canada has 4 different seasons. And even within the 4 different seasons, the range in terms of temperature and humidity are just absolutely crazy, which then affects the performance of the glue. I'll give you 2 examples of these extremes. We have mostly cold weather here in Canada. 8 to 10 months of the year, we're just very, very cold, especially in the dead of winter, in January, February, even March. And as early as November and December, when the weather starts to change, you'll notice the glue starting to perform a little differently if you do nothing to give the environment that it needs to work in. You'll notice that our humidity drops. Sometimes it's even below 30. I've had my humidity at 15, 20 before, super, super low humidity where I work. Then you have summertime where it is high humidity, it is so hot, and the glue's also kind of working a little funny too, or behaving a little funny. These are 2 extreme examples of different environments. And in both of those situations, if you listen to my previous episode before, I gave tips on how you can adjust your environment to give your glue the proper environment to work. In the beginning, I thought I needed to have multiple glues. I needed to have a low humidity glue to work properly in the wintertime, and then I needed a glue that would work well in high humidity in the summertime. I thought the answer was switching different glues in different formulations. After so many years of being in the lash industry, I realized we do not need 6 different glues. That's just crazy. I know that other companies have a lot of different glues, and that's fine. But I decided I didn't need to create a full line of adhesives. I needed to create 2 intentionally. Passion is my black adhesive. It was built for stability, confidence, and depth. I prefer to use Passion for classic lashes simply because of my classic lash pickup technique. The pickup technique for classic lashes is different for volume and mega volume. Vision is my clear lash adhesive, and I prefer to use that for my volume sets as well as my mega volume sets because it provides cleaner work. I prefer to use Passion for my classic sets, although you can still use it for volume and mega volume. But, we all pick up habits and our styles when we start to lash and what we prefer. That's how I started in the beginning, and those habits just really stuck with me. But really, you can use Vision and Passion interchangeably for classic and your volume sets. I would advise beginners to start with Passion and not Vision because Vision is a clear adhesive, and clear glues are really meant for a more advanced lash artist. I'm assuming if you're doing volume and mega volume, you're not a beginner. Please don't do volume and mega volume as a beginner. You will quit your lash career faster than you start, just like you wouldn't expect to run a marathon before you learn to run, before you learn to walk, before you learn to crawl. Setting yourself up for success, I find that if you're a beginner, start off with Passion. And then if you want to move on to volume and mega volume, use the Vision because it gives you that nice, clean, pointed base for your fans. And I absolutely love that very clean look. My decision to create Passion and Vision, these weren't trend-driven decisions. They were standards-driven decisions. I wanted to create passion and vision to be adaptable and versatile and to work in a wide range of environments. What does that mean? It means that you don't have to have the perfect environment for it to work. It will work. Literally, the warning on the label says this will instantly bond skin together. That's why it's only for professional use. If you've never received proper in-person hands-on training, please do not touch my glues or touch any eyelash or extension adhesive because it can be very dangerous if you're not properly trained. Once that skin bonding occurs, you will need to have it surgically removed. So it's very, very dangerous and should be treated with care. I didn't create passion and vision to compete with other brands. I created them to correct what I kept seeing fail artists over and over again. Why standards have always mattered to me? I've been a lash artist for over a decade now, and throughout my career, I've kept my standards high, even when it would have been easier not to, even when it slowed growth, even when it cost more, even when it meant saying no, because I've always believed that if I wouldn't use something on my own clients, I shouldn't be selling it to anyone else. After my burnout, that belief became even clearer. When I rebuilt, I didn't rebuild louder. I rebuilt cleaner. I stopped chasing speed and scale. I chose alignment. I would rather sell less and stand behind it fully than to grow faster and compromise my integrity. This episode isn't really about glue. It's about where we accept inconsistency we shouldn't. It's about where we've been taught to blame ourselves instead of questioning the system. Sometimes the rebuild isn't about learning more. It's about remembering what you already know. Once you start understanding how standards shape products, something changes. You stop accepting inconsistency as normal. You stop blaming yourself for things that were never designed to support you. And for me, that awareness didn't stop at Lash Adhesive. Because the same way I began questioning the standards behind products, I had to start questioning the standards behind my decisions. In an industry full of trends, opinions, and constant noise, that isn't easy. In the next episode, I'm sharing how I learned to make clear, confident business decisions without chasing every voice, and why learning to trust your own judgment is one of the most powerful skills you can build. If you ever felt overwhelmed by advice, comparison, or pressure to keep up, that episode is for you. If this episode resonated with you, the simplest way to support the show is to follow it or leave a review. It helps more artists and business owners find these conversations, and I truly appreciate it. And if you're curious about passion or vision after hearing this episode, I've linked everything in the show notes. Podcast listeners also have a thank you code waiting for them there, but there's no pressure. I always want you to choose what feels aligned for you. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I don't take it lightly. See you next time.